Well, hello there. Do you know what that is? That is an interstate highway right there, specifically Interstate 40. But this that we're standing on is part of old Route 66. And you know what else it is? It's the Sometimes Vlog, yeah! It's a vlog that happens sometimes. Sometimes it happens right here on an old stretch of the Mother Road. We are just outside of Flagstaff, Arizona, which is located back over there where you see them mountains. It is a cloudy day, a gray day. It's been sprinkling on and off today. And so we are not doing a regular Random Land episode, but we are cruising Route 66 and we came across something amazing I just had to share with all of you. Welcome back to the iconic, the epic Twin Arrows, Arizona. Now, obviously, as you can see, there's only one arrow here, but there used to be two, and the sight of those two arrows sticking out of the ground. Sorry about the wind, by the way. I can't do anything about that. My powers don't extend to the weather yet. The iconic symbol of the two arrows here sticking out of the ground grace many postcards, Route 66 calendars, documentaries, probably movies, although I can't think of any off the top of my head. Well, I came here slightly after the lockdowns, the pandemic, and I noticed that the twin arrows had become lone arrow, but the second arrow was still here laying across the ground. Subsequently, I came back in 21 or 22 and discovered, to my surprise and dismay, that the other arrow was missing. Now, at first I thought, well, maybe somebody grabbed it in an effort to restore the arrow. They wanted to put it back or they wanted to preserve it. But it seems pretty clear now, since no one's come forward, that it must have been stolen. Somebody's probably like, hey, check that out. I got this telephone pole in my backyard. You know what that is, kind of thing? And like, oh, well, I mean, I guess it was falling apart anyways, to an extent. And at least we have the one arrow out here, although it's kind of funny. The place is called Twin Arrows, very famous for those two arrows. And the lone arrow has been here by itself for the last couple of years. It's funny because I'm in lots of Route 66 groups on Facebook and different things like that, and you always see people posting pictures of the twin arrows, and immediately underneath you'll see all the comments. Did they fix it? Did they fix it? Last time I went, there was only one arrow, but it's usually an old picture. So obviously the twin arrows were here, not just to look at, but to advertise something, and that something is just over here, the Twin Arrows Trading Post. Now, this started in the 1940s, pretty early in Route 66's kind of heyday here, and the road was here just in front of the trading post. It started out named Canyon Padre Trading Post because we're just near a little wash, a little canyon over there called Canyon Padre. But after the nearby Two Guns, Arizona opened up with its own mountain lion enclosure and a little zoo, and there were gunfights and fake Indian ruins and fake stories about massacres of Native Americans and things, Padre Canyon Trading Post wanted to compete. And so they renamed themselves Twin Arrows Trading Post, installed the twin arrows over there. See, two guns for the cowboys, twin arrows for the Native American theme. If you're going with the whole old cowboys and Indians theme, which was obviously very popular back in the 1940s and 50s. You had your gas pumps right here. You had your old trading post right here. Remember that to most people living back east who were traveling west on Route 66, Native Americans seemed like this far away, mysterious thing. And so there was just huge sales in Native American pottery, blankets, all that kind of stuff. It was very exotic, considered very exotic for the past. We're gonna get to this in just one second. So this was the trading post right here. You can see inside, utter devastation. We're gonna look around at it in a minute. I've been here many times before. We've kind of gone over the basics of this story many times before. But if you have seen me come here before, then you'll know there's kind of an important update behind me, which I'm avoiding for the moment. They also had this. This is my favorite part of Twin Arrows in a way. This was the Twin Arrows Cafe. And what it is something also significant to American roadside history in general, but they had these in cities, they had these in towns. This was a Valentine diner. So from kind of this line to the left, a Valentine diner. The Valentine company would sell these prefabricated diners. This fits perfectly on an old truck bed, and you could haul this out with all the plumbing in it, the flooring in it, the stoves. It was a ready-to-run, complete diner with like 4 or 5 stools, not very big, that you could purchase and drag out to someplace as remote back then as Twin Arrows, Arizona. You could drag it out to Death Valley if you wanted to. So these popped up all over America, and they were sort of just in the perfect time period to become very prevalent along Route 66. So as you travel to different Route 66 destinations and museums and things like that, you'll run into a lot of old Valentine diners. And there's some scattered around. Little small towns will still have them between houses or businesses or things like that. So I love seeing the Valentine diners. Now, this looks like it might have been abandoned since the 50s or 60s or 70s when they put the freeway in here. But in fact, Twin Arrows kept running through a series of various owners all the way up until 1997. So the first time I ever saw Twin Arrows was when I first went on my very first tour with the band in 2001 or 2002, just after the turn of our century. And it didn't look anything like this. It was still pretty much pristine condition in a way. The windows had started to be busted out. There was a little tagging inside, a little tagging on the front, but you could still read the writing Twin Arrows Trading Post across the top of this. But then over the years, especially after I started Randomland, by 2016, when I think I first filmed here, in 2017, when I did my whole LA to Chicago to LA, big Route 66 series. Actually, somebody just pulled over and was talking to me about that series. They're like, oh, it inspired me to do Route 66. I go, I'm never even gonna reach those heights. That was a great series. But by the time I did that, there was so much graffiti on this, you could barely read any part of the Twin Arrows Trading Post sign, the writing on it. And over the last couple of years of the teens, and especially into the first couple of years of the 20s, basically the whole front was covered by graffiti and just sort of looked like this, but even worse. I mean, just dense graffiti, and obviously you can see the back is still covered. So the big update, and the whole reason I pulled over, because we were trying to book it through, we're avoiding rain, we're trying to make a little progress, get to New Mexico, hopefully tonight. The big reason I pulled over right here is because I saw, well, we were gonna pull over anyways, I wanted to show London this place, but we're just gonna maybe take a few pictures and leave. I wanted to share this with you guys because look at this. As you can see, the graffiti, it's not completely gone, but for the most part, most of the tagging is gone at the moment. I'm not sure how recent this is. I haven't even seen a picture of it like this. So it must have been fairly recent, because you can see taggers aren't gonna respect this sign over here, and there isn't much tagging on this at all. This is the most pristine looking I've seen it. Obviously they didn't really repair anything yet, but they have painted it. It's the most change I've seen since 2009. Now this is not the first time one of the arrows has fallen over. Okay, so the arrows were in bad shape. They were falling over back in the sort of 2000s, in the 2000s. And in 2009, a local resident, this lady and a whole bunch of people got together with the Hopi tribe, who have a casino called Twin Arrows Casino somewhere over there across the freeway, and they restored the Twin Arrows. Anyway, and so that leads me into who owns this property now. So from what I understand, the state of Arizona actually owns the land we're standing on. That's why they were able to keep it open, so Route 66 travelers could come in here, and it became sort of part of historic Route 66. But the buildings somehow, the buildings, not the land, are owned by the Hopi. And like I said, they have the casino nearby. And for years, ever since the Arrows project, there was a whole movement to try to get the Hopi and the community and a bunch of different, restoration groups and citizens groups and things like that, and volunteers. There was an effort to try to get them to cooperate with letting them restore this. And this is all from what I understand, so I'm not going to have this perfectly accurate. I didn't get to talk to anybody from the tribe, but the gist of what I've gleaned from locals and people that I know out here is basically that they've always said, yeah, we're going to get to it. It's one of the things we're going to work on. Don't worry, we're going to do some kind of restoration. And then nothing's ever really happened. Obviously, years have gone by, and then there was a pandemic. You can't really expect them to do anything with that. There are obviously other issues with the tribe or with the casino. There's probably tons of other projects to work on, and after all, it's not like the tribe built this place. It's adjacent to their history. It's their history now in the sense that they own the buildings, but I guess Route 66 history here hasn't been a huge priority, and I've heard people grumble about it. I've heard people complain about that. They got the casino, they got the money to fix it. Why don't they just fix it? I've had to wonder myself sometimes, like, are they ever going to do a restoration, or maybe let somebody else do a GoFundMe to do a restoration? But this is a hopeful sign, because look at this. They have at least applied paint. They've at least removed some of the most offensive graffiti. Obviously, the 100th anniversary of Route 66 is coming up in 2026, and this is very, very interesting. They didn't just paint it over, they've actually added this sign here, which is just, it's absolutely brand new. So I don't know how long this has been sitting here, but not too long, because it's barely weathered or faded or anything. This is Native American property. Please be respectful. No graffiti. That is very, very interesting. An appeal to the better side of human nature. Please don't screw it up. So I'm wondering if this is phase one, and are they at least going to, because I've always said, I totally get why they can't restore the inside. We're gonna go inside in a second so you can see why too. But I always wondered why they didn't just sort of kind of shore up the outside, maybe put some boards in here, let some mural artists kind of paint the outside, and maybe this is step one towards that goal. I'm not sure. Okay, let's head inside the trading post. Oh, somebody lost their gloves. Oh, look, they have paint on them. Maybe one of the painters lost their gloves. You're gonna see, I don't know what you're gonna see. When there's all kinds of graffiti, you might see something that might really offend you. Remember, I didn't write it. I'm just the messenger. Okay, look at this. So we're standing inside of the trading post here. You can see the floor's not perfect, but you're in a lot more danger from the ceiling than you are from the floor. You would have had your typical roadside attraction stuff. In the 90s, obviously, you would have had lots of little toys and trinkets. We all remember those. But way back in the beginning, obviously lots and lots of Navajo blankets and kachinas and all the kind of Native American souvenirs you'd have around here, especially with the theme being the Twin Arrows, and all your Route 66 t-shirts and hats that would have started to come. Unfortunately, they couldn't hang on throughout the 90s, right? There's a lot of these places along Route 66. You've got Meteor City, you've got Two Guns, which will obviously closed way before this. But I can't believe, it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that this was open in the 1990s, that this was, it had wiring, it had cash registers, it had electricity. I don't know if the diner was still open for business back then, but it was certainly still intact. Now you can see lots of liquor bottles. There are local people who come and have obviously partied in here. Lots of graffiti artists like to come and make their mark. The graffiti, I understand, honestly. Abandoned building, it's gonna get graffitied. That's just the nature of things. Hey, some places like it. Hey, please tag on it, because at least then there's new paint. It's not coming apart more. This is obviously snow, wind, rain, right? The damage to the roof. But what I don't get is people who blow out the walls. So like, is that just happening just for fun? Were animals in here? It's like, don't destroy the walls. But as you can see, the walls are the least of the problems here. There's all kinds of damage to the ceiling, and eventually this sort of left half of the trading post, we're not going to be able to come in here at all. So that's kind of why I'm in here. You got to be really careful. There are nails. You got to have your tetanus shot to be in here. Glass, and it's really not safe to be in here. Oh, look at that. Fun times. The pool. Fun times. We're having some fun. Oh, I saw that guy in the little screen that I could see. I thought that was a human being right there for just 1 second. I knew that wasn't you, London. That was weird. So anyway, I don't normally come in here, but I thought I had to. This is one interesting thing. This is why I'm trying to get back here, because you're not going to be able to see this for long if it continues to fall down. Look between this wood paneling here, and you can actually see the original back wall of the trading post. There's some right here. You can see the stone and the old sort of cheap concrete there and the old wood. This made up the original back wall of the trading post, the original 1940s trading post. And you can see sort of the concrete and rock, and then you can see that it was probably built solid, and then they cut it away to build this extension here. And so, whoa, there's a lizard. Scared me. I didn't know what that was. You gotta be careful. I don't want any snakes. I don't want any baby rattlesnakes in here. I don't know where they are, elevation or region, but I just assume they're everywhere, and that way I keep my eyes open. But yeah, you can see this was all an extension, so you can still see some of the shelves. I don't know whether these would have been stock shelves. My assumption is, seeing that there's a big display cabinet here, there's pegboard, right, to put stuff on display, some more shelving here. My assumption is that these were, this was more shopping area, because why build an extension this big just for a stock room? And you can see some more pegboard back here. There's all kinds of insulation and stuff we probably shouldn't be breathing, and piles of human waste that I'm glad you can't smell, but I can. So that's lovely. And lots of graffiti on the walls. There are stickers. There's all kinds of stuff out here. political messages, rude messages, hopeful messages. You got all sorts. So if you bring the kids out to somewhere like this, just don't let them come in here, because there's stuff like this nail just sticking up and you think, I'm stepping on a board. No, you're stepping on a hospital visit. That's what you're stepping on. So this is obviously framing for the walls. You obviously have the restrooms over here. And I just wanted to take one more peek and get these on camera while, you know, access is still allowed. It hasn't all been boarded up yet. Oh, who destroyed that toilet? Oh my gosh, what did they eat? Was Keith Moon here? Anyways, I wanted to get in here one last time, just in case. I never thought the arrow would fall down so quickly, and so I don't want to take this roof for granted. I definitely thought that the roof would fall faster than the arrow, that's for sure, but the roof is not going to be with us long. It is on the way out. So anyway, that's the point of coming in here. And then look at this. Here's a weird extension they built between the prefab diner and the trading post. Look at the floor. I mean, it is totally humbucked in here. But you come in through here. Here's a little extension. No clue what would have been in here. I'm assuming additional seating, because the actual diners are not all that big. And by the way, if you are interested in roadside attractions or traveling or places like this to find along the road, epic old highways and roadside attractions and stuff, there's two other Valentine diners I can think of off the top of my head that are in much better shape. One is down at the Shady Dell in Bisbee, Arizona. That's the cool old vintage trailer park where you can stay in old Airstreams and retro trailers. Very near to Tombstone, Arizona, down in Bisbee. And I filmed there. They have a Valentine diner that's more or less intact. They use it as kind of the area where you can use the microwave and stuff like that if you're staying at the Shady Dell. And then the other one is Harold Warp's Pioneer Village in Minden, Nebraska has got a restored Valentine diner. And that Valentine diner is ready to use, basically. I think they rent it out to use it for events. That thing's ready to go. All right, let's go through the door and get to the diner properly. Whoa. I'm assuming that exit wasn't there back in the day, but it does look like the metal was actually cut out. So maybe there was a shed here or something to expand the kitchen, because this was the kitchen. That was it. You have the kitchen right here. This is obviously some kind of raised platform for you to sit on. There's the bar. There's the actual diner bar. As you can see, it's not very big. It was a little 4 or 5 stool concern, like I said. So only a few people really could come in here and eat at a time, and obviously there was only a few places to cook, a couple places to make those hamburgers or hot dogs or whatever they were serving up in here. Not very big, so possibly that was an extension, although this is very strange. This is very strange that the metal's cut out. Maybe scrappers got it, I'm not sure. This extension probably, I'm assuming, was seating, because it's so adjacent. Then there's all kinds of back rooms and stock rooms and things that I don't think were on display. But the public part of the trading post, man, it is just blown to heck. You can walk in here further, London, as long as you're careful. He needs my permission. He's still only 17. Just watch out, because there's lots of nails sticking up from stuff like this, you know, but you're always looking at the ground. We were just out looking at some cliff dwellings, some old Native American cliff dwellings. We were out at Walnut Canyon, and London was saying, like, I got this bad habit from Boy Scouts and hiking of always looking at the ground. I go, me too. I always look at the ground, but mine didn't come from the Boy Scout thing. It came from all this. Now remember, in 1940, not a lot of houses out this way. Twin Arrows, still somewhat remote. I mean, Flagstaff's only 30, 40 minutes away down the road. I mean, to get into the heart of downtown Flagstaff. But even still, see, look at this roof is down. I mean, I wouldn't even get under there. I can see it's still sort of attached up here at the entrance, but this is, I mean, I can't move it. It's still solid for the moment as is, but that is coming all the way down really soon, and it's probably going to pull the rest of this stuff with it. So let's go around a different way over here. Where I was trying to get to is I was trying to get back in this room, because what I was going to say is there weren't a lot of houses here in a lot of neighborhoods, and that little distance now in a modern Toyota over a modern interstate is very short, but it would have taken you a lot longer to get to Flagstaff. So it only makes sense that whoever opened this place in 1940 would have actually had some sort of living quarters here. And perhaps that's why you've got this fireplace back there. Of course, it also makes sense that they might not have had gas heating and all that stuff in the original trading post. But look at this. There's a bathroom with a bathtub. There's carpeting on the ground here. You can see there's the old original sort of, this is hard. I don't know what's going on under this floor. Don't trust linoleum floors. You don't know what's underneath. You know what I'm talking about? Those clear glass blocks? That's old school. You don't get that beyond the 30s, 40s, 50s. And there's all these like little hallways going to other back rooms. So my assumption is that they actually resided here, the people who are running it. And there's actually not a lot of information on the people who first built the Padre Canyon Trading Post and first opened it. A lot of these Route 66 places, I can tell you exactly who built it, who the first couple that owned it was. I've never been able to find that information for Twin Arrows. Not that I've searched super hard, but you know, a quick Google brings up lots of stuff about 1940, Padre Canyon, changing the name, but not a lot of stuff about the owners of it until you get to the 50s, and then it talks about different owners. But you see there's a doorway there, a sneaky doorway. So I think, look at this weird triangle when they built those extensions. They trapped this little weird garden in here. I think people were living here for sure. There's a sink counter right there. So an archaeologist would have a field day out here. Get it? Field, archaeology. Okay. And here's the very, very back room, carpet on here. So I'm assuming this was somebody's master bedroom at one point. There's carpet. You've got his and hers closets over here on the sides. And it only makes sense that they had their residence back here. That's the same way it was at the Thing in Arizona. If you're into roadside attractions, the old Thing, the family that owned it lived on the property, and they have some mobile homes and stuff behind there today for caretakers. So I'm assuming this was all residence back here. And I've looked at this before, and I've crawled through here a little bit before. By the way, look at this. You see this mesh for the old plaster ceiling? And there's just chunks of that plaster ceiling coming down everywhere from water damage and wind damage and old lead paint and stuff. So not the healthiest environment in the world. It's like sheetrock, actually, you know? Look at that. Crazy. Yeah, some of this wood looks pretty old. So I think we're in kind of the original residence portion. But that happens a lot. There's a lot of roadside attractions like that where the people lived and worked there. Lots of those old roadside motels. Or they'll have a caretaker who lives on site to run the business. And then obviously behind here, because it was a gas station, you've got garage buildings, you've got tanks for water. Not a lot of running water out here in Twin Arrows. If I say Two Guns by accident at any point through this thing, I know, you don't have to correct me in the comments. I already know I'm dumb. When we edit this, I'll know. But I don't really want to go through the back doors to get there, so we'll go out the front way and walk around. What do you think? Kind of cool? I mean, you've grown up with YouTube, so you've seen urbex videos and stuff, I'm assuming, like urban exploration and stuff. But I don't know that you've been in that many abandoned buildings. How you liking it?
Dirty.
Dirty. I like it for the history. I like coming in and kind of like, you know, doing visual archaeology or something and trying to piece it back together. I'm not a big fan of just hanging out in it. Whenever I see like the piles of magazines and beer cans and other worse stuff, and you think like all the teenagers have been in here doing, street youths have been doing their youth parties in here, you think, why? Like if you're 17, if your friends are like, hey, we're gonna go hang out in an abandoned building, there's lots of human waste in there. Would you go? Would you be like, yeah? No, I want to go to a mansion. Take me to your mansion. Let me just swim in your pool. Don't take me to your abandoned building. Unless it's on Route 66, and then obviously I'm game. Now, we're in 2024 right now as I film this, right? And I know people will watch these videos long after. I mean, they did with the old Route 66 series. But at the moment that I film this, we are in 2024. We're only 2 years away from the 100th anniversary. But we're still at least a year and a half away from that happening, which means there's still plenty of time for people to organize and get something done. Perhaps that paint is a hopeful sign out there that things are going to happen. Geez, who knows? Who knows what this was? But obviously there's garage door tracks, and here's the big garage door. So I don't know if this was a repair garage, or obviously somebody was living in this garage or storing things in it eventually, not working on cars. It's possible. A lot of Route 66 places had repair garages in here, and I can see a shower over there. So was this a little tourist court? Could somebody rent this out? I'm not sure. You know, an employee residence, someplace for the kids to live, a mother-in-law suite. I don't know, because it almost does look like a little house here. I can see a kitchen. I can see all kinds of stuff. Never really thought about that, but it's a whole back house. Anyway, my point was, it may be a hopeful sign out front, the paint. We still have a year and a half left. Hopefully they can at least get the arrows back up. Unfortunately, the lady who sort of spearheaded that project the last time and kind of knew all the players, the linchpin of the project, she passed away very tragically due to an incident that happened just down the road at a mysterious, very haunted-y, murdery Route 66 location that I hope to come back and do a video of one day soon. And so she's no longer with us. I'm blanking on her name. I'll put it on the screen if I remember to do that. But dang, that's so frustrating that I'm blanking on the name. See, we're peering into those same rooms, this other residence. People did live in there, at least at first when this place opened, and the people did live in here semi-permanently. And this would have been sort of a little family private courtyard between. I can't think of what else this little area would be used for. Obviously, there's graffiti all over it now, and obviously get the water tank back here. You got your garage. It's very, very strange. It's surreal. It's weird, but mostly the reason I'm wandering around through the whole ruins again and giving you a whole video about it with lots of footage is because I don't know how long this is going to last. The paint on the outside may be a hopeful sign, you know. Certainly, I hope that enough people would get together, enough Route 66 people would get together to GoFundMe or do whatever it takes, convince the Hopi, convince the state of Arizona, Route 66 Association, somebody would come and at least put the second arrow up. I hope somebody comes in and at least stick some 2x4s under the roof, but they're not our buildings, guys. They belong to the tribe, the Hopi Nation, and the land is state of Arizona, so I'm sure there's some kind of permits. I mean, maybe it's better to ask forgiveness than permission, but the paint gives me hope that at least something is being planned out and worked on. This is weird. I feel like this was standing before. Look at that. Somebody's cut clean through. That was cut on purpose. The old power pole, you see some of the light boxes and then the pipes that would lead to the lights that would light up this. Obviously, there's no more gas pumps left out here at all, which is strange. I think they've all just been scrapped because there used to be husks of old pumps out here, you know, the bones of them. So I don't know what the future holds for Twin Arrows, and it doesn't even matter. You could Google it, and maybe there's an article about, oh, they're planning to do this and this, as we've seen with whether it's Disney building a new land or whether it's something that's going to be restored or reopened. We see plans change all the time, so I like to wait until I see progress. And I pulled my butt off that highway so eagerly and so quickly because for the first time in years, since 2009, I'm seeing progress. This is progress because at least the graffiti's kind of covered up from the front. This may be an attempt. I hope. My hope is, this is pure speculation, my hope is that they would get the twin arrows, at least both arrows up. Maybe make them out of metal. You don't have to make them out of telephone poles every time if they're going to keep falling down, but I would hope they would get the twin arrows themselves up, and then I would hope that they would at least put the Twin Arrows Trading Post sign back up there, like the letter writing, and maybe complete this. Now there's this like kind of rudimentary pink stripe across the top there, which is interesting. That's kind of where the lettering was for the trading post. So I'm wondering if this is a work in progress. It surely looks like it. I mean, the painter left his gloves right there, so maybe he was planning on coming right back. I'm wondering if it's a work in progress. I'm hoping it's a work in progress. If not, it's at least cool to see it all white like this, because I have not seen it like this, man, in decades. So that's it. That's it for Twin Arrows. Let's go take one more look at that arrow really quick. Ah, there she blows, the lone arrow. And all this wind. I'm sure you're hearing this wind now. Anyways, I hope that one day we're looking back on the lone arrow era of Twin Arrows and it itself becomes a part of Route 66 past. I hope you're watching this 5-10 years from now and you're going, oh man, that's crazy. Look how it looked before its awesome restoration. Anyway, as you see, it's dark and cloudy and weird out here today. It's the middle of the day. It's like noon. And it's just strange weather, lots of wind, not perfect filming conditions. And anyways, London and I are trying to do, we're trying to get out into America. We go to Arizona all the time. Obviously we're from California, so we're in California all the time. We're trying to get out to places that London has never been to. So he's never been to New Mexico or beyond. So we're trying to get out there in a hurry, but I had to stop and share this little progress report with you, this little Twin Arrows update with you. Twin Arrows update. Will it survive? It's actually a pretty good title. Not a bad title, because that's what I want to know. Sounds like I have the answers though. Anyway, let's just let that be the title. I'm not that creative. All right, anyway, London and I are going down the road. Maybe we'll get another Sometimes vlog out there for you today. Hopefully we do. Hopefully we do a little bit before we leave Arizona entirely. However, there's my Instagram right there on the screen. You can see some photos from Instagram of the other places we go. We'll post some photos of the journey. And I'd love to see you guys on Patreon. We got the morning announcements over there, different vlog. And if you haven't heard of it, I did write a book. My book is out, Tales from Randomland. You can get it on Kindle, or you can get it from randomland.com, a physical copy. That helps out more. What else? Smash the like, subscribe. There's all the things I'm supposed to say. I know people repeat this all the time, but when you look at the views Look at the subscribers, look at the views. You got to repeat stuff a lot of times for everyone to hear it once. Once I feel like everyone's heard it once, I'll never mention it again. How about that? I'll never mention it again. Anyway, we're gonna go on, we're gonna get some lunch, we're gonna do some fun pictures. Len and I are gonna run in there and do a little more exploration on our own without you, make some of our own memories. And that's it. So you've done your duty. Thank you for watching. Thank you especially for watching all the way to the end, all the way to the very end club. My favorite kind of people. You've done your duty. Ow, ow, the arrow got me. Oh, there's an arrow in my London. Pull out the arrow, quick. Come. Hurry, run. Why can't you ever run? He never runs. Pull out the arrow. You see it? See it? Pull out the arrow. Go. Oh, now suck out the poison. Suck out the poison. Just kidding. Okay, you've done your duty. Go home and archery well. See you later. Look at this. The twin arrows are so famous, even the overly round pig is making a visit. Weird.